So, as an educator, does the intelligence of your students even matter? Short answer, no. No, it doesn't. Intelligence is a measure of cognitive functioning and mental capacity. In a school or educational context, when we're talking about intelligence, we're often referring to a student's IQ score. And a student's intelligence quotient, or IQ, is a measure of some of their mental capacities. And an average student will score a 100. Their IQ will be a 100. And some students will score way above that. Some students may score way below that. But in general, most students will have a score around 100. So the question is, does this matter in a school context? In terms of your success in the classroom or even outside of it, does this number make a difference at all? To explore this, let's take a comparison of Chris Langdon and Robert Oppenheimer that was made in Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. Langdon is regarded by some as the most intelligent person on the planet. A quick summary of his life goes like this. After high school, he receives a scholarship to attend a small college in Oregon, but there's some problem with some financial aid forms and paperwork, and he ends up dropping out and moving back home to Montana, where he does eventually re-enroll in college. But after his car breaks down, it leaves him without reliable transportation. He can no longer make a morning session of one of his classes. He tries to move to an afternoon section of the same course, but unfortunately, he's unable to convince his advisor to change his schedule. So Langdon never completed college, and professionally, one of his longest running careers was as a bouncer at a bar. Well, in his book, Gladwell contrasts Langdon's story with that of Robert Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer was the director of the Manhattan Project, which led to the development of the atomic bomb. Like Langdon, Oppenheimer was extremely intelligent. He completed his undergraduate education at Harvard. His graduate work was in physics at Cambridge. But during a particularly stressful time in his studies, Oppenheimer actually tried to poison his advisor. Like literally, he put poison in his advisor's tea. But officials at Cambridge took this as a plea for help, put him on probation, and got him the counseling support that he needed. So here are two extremely intelligent people. One can't get their advisor to change their class schedule. The other tries to poison his advisor and gets probation and counseling. One never completes college, and the majority of their life is in service or labor jobs. The other one leads to an infamous but monumental intellectual endeavor. So why was one successful, why the other was not? Well, it turns out there's a lot of reasons: personality, background, values, and many others. But the point is that intelligence by itself didn't translate to success. Let me expand with another example from Gladwell's book. In the early 1920s, a researcher by the name of Lewis Terman was fascinated by the idea of intelligence. At the time, this area of research was new and really exciting. Terman believed that he could identify extremely intelligent child geniuses and that they would become incredibly high achievers. He believed that they would be the future Nobel laureates, CEOs, political leaders, or hold other highly regarded positions. So Terman assessed over 250,000 kids in multiple rounds of intelligence tests. And round after round, he eliminated kids until he got his final set of 1,470 kids with the highest IQs that he could possibly find. So these kids were identified, nearly 100 years ago. So what happened to them? Well, you might be surprised to hear that nothing exceptional really came from this group. That, some did receive advanced education, became doctors or lawyers. A few became local elected officials. But others didn't attend college, had mid-level or service-related careers. There were actually 2 kids in the study that eventually won Nobel Prizes, but they were eliminated in one of the earlier rounds of testing because they weren't smart enough to make the cut to be included in the final group of 1,470 kids. So basically, you would have gotten the same result as Terman did if you would have just taken 1,500 kids at random rather than Terman's group of child geniuses. Well, if smarts and intelligence don't really matter in terms of later life success, what does? Well, in his book, How Children Succeed, Paul Tough explored this exact idea. And he explained how certain character traits closely related to success. And when we say success, I think it's also important to state that success is not the same for every person, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have a prestigious career or high-paying job. Success is having high goals for yourself, achieving those, and being happy with the results of it. The 7 character traits that Tuff highlights in his book were zest, grit, optimism, self-control, gratitude, social intelligence, and curiosity. So let's look at each of these. The first one, zest, what that is having enthusiasm or excitement for something. So for kids in school, this is having excitement or passion about something that they're learning. Students don't necessarily need to have zest for every content area or course assignment that they might have, but in terms of their own success in school, they need to have at least some subject or task that they're genuinely excited or passionate about. In the case of grit, what that is having perseverance or consistency in achieving long-term goals. So students with grit continue to work on something even though they might not want to, because they're trying to accomplish some bigger, longer range tasks. Moving on to optimism, that's having confidence in a positive perspective on the future. So students that are optimistic believe in themselves and that they can grow and improve to be more successful. And this doesn't mean that students need to think things are easy, right? Even in the face of hard tasks, students need to maintain confidence and a belief that even though this is hard, I can still do it. And that's a sense of optimism. Moving on to self-control, that's having the ability to regulate your responses. All kids are going to get frustrated, upset, or even angry, but kids that are able to control their responses to those emotions are going to be much more successful in many different aspects of their lives. Gratitude, that's the appreciation for the benefits that you receive from others. And this speaks to students understanding and acknowledging that the support they get from their teachers is a big part of what helps them succeed. That knowing who is helping you and how that relates to your success, and then acknowledging that, letting people know that you appreciate, that students appreciate what other people are doing for them. And then social intelligence, and that's about the empathy and understanding of the emotions of others, right? So students that are able to adapt their behaviors to the emotional needs of their peers are going to be more successful, again, in lots of different aspects of their life, not just school. And that brings us to the last one, which is maybe my favorite, and that's curiosity. And this is the eagerness to explore new things. Students are much more successful when they approach life and their learning with a questioning spirit, and one that wants to understand why things are the way they are, and then looks to answer those questions their environment and world, and tries to understand it deeper. That's what curiosity is. So anyway, to wrap things up, I just think in schools we focus a lot on content and academic information, but if our true goal is to set up students for success in life, then it's critically important that we also teach them about these character traits, give them opportunities to develop and to grow in these areas. So anyway, hope that helps. Hope it's interesting, and thanks for watching.